Hello, peoples. Welcome to Recreational Drugs. Drugs are we all doing today? Today will be stimulants. Yay, I could use a little of that myself. 20 participants, 20 out of 50. Well, cool people showed up, uncool people stayed home. Am I right, Math Cole?
Right.
Just so you know, anytime I say, am I right, you say, yes, sir, sir.
Yes, sir, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I'm a landlord too, and I make all my tenants call me my lord. Can you help me, my lord? Well, I don't know. What do you need? My bathroom is filled with sewage. No, indeed, I cannot help you. You'll have to deal with that problem on your own. Okay, well, wait a couple minutes because you know how short these lectures have been going, so we can stand to kill a few minutes here in the hopes that more people showed up. I know I think it was last Wednesday, class was only about half an hour, 40 minutes, and right after I ended class, people started showing up. Snooze you lose. Ain't that right, Cora Stone? Cora Stone?
Yes, correct,
Yes, sir, sir.
sir.
Okay. It's like trying to beat some sense into you people. Okay. Oop. Stimulants. This should be exciting. I got a million of them. Are they all that bad? Yeah, pretty much. Just maximizing my screen for the best possible outcome here. Okay. Okay. All right, why don't we just go ahead and do this thing. So again, I'm going to divide this chapter into two halves. The first half will be mostly pharmacokinetics, also some chemical structure and stuff like that, because I know you love chemical structures. And then we'll stop before mechanism of action. I think we'll watch the mouse party, and that's about as far as we'll go as with that. Oops, that didn't do it. Okay, cocaine. That's Spanish for cocaine. Cocaine. So we're going to be talking about cocaine and amphetamines today. Cocaine's in its own class. It's the only drug I know of that does what it does. And amphetamines, there's several different amphetamines. So cocaine is a natural product. Comes from the coca leaf, and you're probably aware that people use this for centuries without getting addicted to it, because all they would do is chew the leaf. You know, when you chew the leaf, you get a slow infusion of it. You don't really get that much euphoria out of it, but you get energy. You get an increase in energy. So kind of a nondescript plant, doesn't look very interesting. Pull the leaves off of it and chew the leaves. And usually they put a piece of something basic in there, something alkaline to help the extraction of the cocaine out of the leaf. And as you chew it, you break down the leaf, and then the cocaine gets released, and you put it between your cheek and gum and absorb it through the mucous membranes in your mouth. Once upon a time, when it was legal to buy this in the store, you could get it for hay fever and throat problems, or toothaches, because it is a local anesthetic as well. We'll talk about that. Vin Marini, wine with cocaine in it. So this is all legal. You could buy it in the store. Also, Coca-Cola, you probably all know, was originally had cocaine in it. Had to take that out, replaced it with caffeine. So now we're caffeine addicts instead of cocaine addicts. Amphetamines, there are natural amphetamines. This over here is ma huang, which is a Chinese plant. The berries of it have got ephedrine in it, and you can buy, I don't know if you can still, you used to be able to buy ephedrine in the nutraceutical store. I think one guy killed himself with it and it became a national thing. It's always the way it is, right? There was one guy who was trying to make a Major League Baseball team as a pitcher, but he was overweight. So instead of taking one every 12 hours, he took about 19 in the morning and died. It became a big news story, and now you can't buy it in the store anymore. So that's ma huang, which is ephedrine. This is khat, which is kind of a North African thing. It's got a drug in it called cathinone, which does similar things to all the other amphetamines. And of course, you've got your synthesized amphetamines, which were used starting, I believe, with ephedrine. They might have started with norepinephrine, but I think they started with ephedrine and changed the structure here and there and got different amphetamines. Gus, come on, here we go. Get over here. So you've got dexedrine, you've got amphetamine, which is it sounds like a generic name, but it's the name of the original drug, which is why they're all called by this as a class. Then there's benzedrine, which is amphetamine. That's like the what do you call it? The trade name of amphetamine is benzedrine, bennies. Like if you see movies from the 60s when people still were prescribed benzedrine, and you see drug abusers saying, "Bennies, get me some bennies." That's benzedrine. Interesting historical fact, as you know, well, as you may know, I don't know how much you know about the history of the Second World War, but first Germany took over Czechoslovakia and then Poland, and then they kind of paused for a little while, and then they went charging right through Belgium and through the forests of Belgium and down into France. And the French had all their defenses lined up on the French-German border, and they thought, well, Belgium, the forests are too dense there. There's no way you could get an armored column through there. Well, the Germans did, and the way they did it was they fed all their soldiers up on benzedrine. So they were marching 24 hours straight on this stuff. So, and what's his name? The big bad guy, Hitler. Hitler was a big fan of benzedrine as well. He was a big addict of benzedrine. So it affected world history in that sense. Methamphetamine, not a pharmaceutical. It's made in clandestine labs, which have a tendency to blow up. And these labs, a lot of times what people do is like rent a hotel room and then cook their meth and leave just a toxic stew of waste behind. So meth labs. Okay. So that's where these things come from. Now we've got two different forms of cocaine, and we'll talk a lot about structure and pharmacokinetics here because it makes a really big difference with these two drugs, with cocaine and amphetamines, and methamphetamine. So you've got cocaine HCl, which is a polar form, and crack cocaine, which is a nonpolar form. And the difference is this tertiary nitrogen here, or quaternary nitrogen. So you can see the whole rest of the structure is the same. It's the same chemical. The difference is pH. In an acidic pH, you will protonate that nitrogen, and it'll make it positively charged. Now, the nice thing about that is then it can crystallize and come out as a powder. So that's why it's powder cocaine. Freebase then is when you dissolve this in water and then you hit it with a base like ammonia or sodium bicarbonate, and it becomes nonpolar. And at that point, if you wanted to make some really good pure stuff, you would extract that. A lot of times people would extract it with ether. So all the cocaine goes into the ether, and then they get rid of the water, they separate it and with a sup funnel, and then they dry the ether off. Well, one of the problems with drying ether off is it's extremely explosive. So some people burn themselves to death doing that. That's called freebasing. I don't think people do that anymore. At least I hope not. Crack cocaine's a little different in that after you neutralize it with bicarbonate, you just then dry the water off. And then you get little crystals that have water, little water droplets enclosed within the crystals of the cocaine. And that's why they call it crack. When you heat it, the water expands and it's like popcorn popping open because of that included water. So cocaine HCl, this is more expensive because you need more of it to get high, basically. So cocaine HCl is the powder cocaine, decomposes with heat. You can't smoke it. It's water soluble but poorly absorbed. You can inject it because it's water soluble. But when I say poorly absorbed, I mean through mucous membranes. So if you snort it, most of it is not going to go into your bloodstream, or maybe half of it will anyway. And it goes in slower. So for both of those reasons, you need more per dose in order to get the effect you're looking for. Freebase, treat it with bicarbonate and extract it with ether or dehydrate it. Now it's heat stable for some reason, and I don't understand why, but when it's no longer the salt form, you can heat it and smoke it. And this dose is larger than the other dose because people typically don't hit it once and then quit for the evening. It doesn't last very long, so you hit it over and over and over and over again. So people get on a run and they just keep going. What else do I want to say about that? Let's see. Decomposes with heat, water soluble, sometimes injected, sometimes snorted. Yeah, so the big difference here, like dose looks lower here than here, but this is on repeat doses. So like 1 or 2 hits of crack would be much less cocaine than a line of powdered cocaine. And that's why it could be sold cheaper. But then, you keep hitting it over and over again, so you end up doing a lot of it in the end. And here are pharmacokinetics of removal. Here's IV, okay? For IV, you get the highest peak always because all of it goes directly in your veins. Here's smoking crack cocaine, and a little bit lower than the peak of IV because your lungs will extract like 70% of it, and you're going to exhale 30% of it. So the peak's a little bit lower. Here is nasal insufflation, as they say. Peaks slower, peaks in maybe 15 minutes, and then lasts about, by about here, it's running out. And with the smoked, it runs out really fast. So let's look at that. Okay, well, we'll get back to that in a second. Oops, shoot. Okay, so here is the different forms of cocaine that are kind of important to us. One, this is regular old run-of-the-mill cocaine. So here's your methyl ester. Here's your quaternary ammonium thing here. Now notice these are both ester bonds, and there are a lot of esterases in your body that can break down ester bonds. Liver is full of them, but they're also in your plasma as well. So this is cocaine, this is cocaine. Oh, and keep in mind too, that when I talk about this being polar versus this being non-polar, that's only in the form that you buy it in and try to get it in your body with, okay? Once it gets into your bloodstream, they're the same because the form of it depends on pH, and the pH of your blood is going to be 7.4 no matter how much cocaine you take. So once this gets into your brain, it's identical whether it was HCl or freebase. Okay, those are your cocaines. Now here are the breakdown products, these 3 here. This is benzoyl ecognin. So you've taken that methyl ester off. Okay. Over here, ecognine methyl ester, you've taken that, the other ester off, the benzoyl ester, and ecognine, you've taken them both off. So in the urine, you're going to find all three of these after someone has used cocaine. This is the most common one to find in the urine. So this is the major metabolite, and it's got no effect. It's got no central effect. So, you know, at this point, it's effectively done. And you can see here's ecognine, right? You put the benzoyl back there, it's benzoyl ecognine. You put the methyl ester back there, it's methyl ester ecognine. So this is the base metabolite product, but this is the main one you see in urine. Here is cocaethylene. So this is another thing that people do, which is if you drink alcohol while you're doing cocaine, it makes the cocaine last longer because you get an ester shift from the methyl ester to the ethyl ester, right? This is ethanol. And so you get a substitution reaction there. And this has got a longer half-life than regular old cocaine. So that increases how long it's going to stay in your system. Amphetamines. So again, we've got a powder form and a crystal form. This methamphetamine powder is the HCl, and the free base then is methamphetamine. So this is more of a crystal than crack is, right? Crack has got that, still kind of looks like a powder, and that's because it's got those watery inclusions in the crystals. This is a pure crystal. There's nothing inside of it, so that's why it looks so crystalline. Sometimes called ice or glass. Okay, amphetamine structure has the same quaternary ammonium, which can be protonated or not, and that's how we end up with hang on. That's how we end up with powder cocaine versus crystal meth, okay? You protonate that ammonium, you get this, you take it off with base, and you end up with this. And we're going to see that's going to do a lot of the same thing that that chemistry does to cocaine as well. Okay, so everything is very similar to norepinephrine here. Here's your norepinephrine, which I'm sure you all know the structure of by now, right? Just kidding. Okay, so here is ephedrine, the natural product. So you can see ephedrine is just putting a methyl group here and a methyl group here. And now that, oh, when you got to take these OHs off over here. So they take these OHs off, put a methyl there, put a methyl there. That's ephedrine. Now, amphetamine then, they took ephedrine and they took that other OH off. And with no methyl group here, that's amphetamine. And then you put the methyl group back here, it's methamphetamine. So amphetamine, methamphetamine, amphetamine, methamphetamine. Okay. So structurally, and what we're going to talk about in this class is mainly methamphetamine because that's the main recreational form. Okay. Okay, very similar to cocaine. Methamphetamine used to be called crank. I don't know what the kids are calling it today. Decomposes with heat, so you can't smoke it. Okay, just like the other HCl. Water soluble, which means you can inject it pretty easily, dissolve it in water and inject it, but it's poorly absorbed if you snort it, so it comes in slow that way. Hang on. Okay, let me finish this and I want to go back. I forgot to talk about something with cocaine. Free base methamphetamine then is the crystal meth. It's heat stable, so it's usually smoked, but it can also be snorted. Very fast absorption and immediate high. So this is very, very fast. Hang on, let me just go ahead real quick and then I'm going to go back. All right, so surprised I don't have this here for cocaine, but I should also say in cocaine that cocaine HCl, when snorted, peaks in about, onset in about 2 or 3 minutes, peaks in about 15 minutes, lasts about 45 minutes. So it's a short lasting kind of a thing. And when you snort it, the first time you snort it, about 60% will be absorbed. The other 40% will go down the back of your throat. And from the back of your throat, it goes into your stomach, and then your liver breaks it down. So nothing really goes on with that. And then once you've done it once, the second time you do it, only 30% gets absorbed because you get this vasoconstriction in your nose. So there's less blood going through their nasal passages. So less of it gets absorbed, more of it goes down the back of your throat and gets wasted. So with cocaine HCl, the absorption's pretty poor when snorted nasally. Freebase crack, on the other hand, heat stable smoked. So when you smoke it, 70% of it gets extracted. So, and that's every time you hit it. So it's not going to decrease its absorption like the powder form does. Onset in about 7 seconds. So you take that hit, and in about 7 seconds it hits your brain, and you get the rush. So, and that produces a real strong rush, which makes it more addictive than the powder cocaine. Powder cocaine peaks in 15 minutes. This peaks in like 7 seconds. So you're getting a lot more rush, and it's a lot more addictive. Peaks in 1 to 2 minutes, this stuff, and then the freebase form. And it will last about 5 to 15 minutes, so very short. And that short half-life has to do with more to do with redistribution than with metabolism. It's going to be metabolized as fast as cocaine HCl, but since this is so non-polar, when you smoke it, you breathe it in, goes to your lungs, goes up to your brain, and because your brain is all fat, right? It's all membranes. All this, it just gets partitioned directly into your brain. And then in the interval between smoking, when your blood doesn't have any in it because it's all in your brain, it's going to come out of your brain. So it's leaching out of your brain back into the blood, being distributed to the fat all over your body. So the duration is 5 to 15 minutes, but it's because of redistribution more so than metabolism. But then it will get metabolized again afterward. So the effect is diminishing rapidly, but the whole body dose remains pretty much the same. So the pharmacokinetics of metabolism is the same as powder cocaine, but the redistribution makes it go away. So people tend to redose about every 5 to 10 minutes in order to stay high. Metabolism, again, for amphetamines is very different. This is one big difference between amphetamine and cocaine. This isn't well metabolized. So the half-life could be anywhere from 7 to 30 hours. Typically, when someone does this once, just does one hit of it and experiences it, you'll be up for 24 hours straight. I'm not sure why anyone would want to be up for 24 hours straight, but you are. 60% of it will be metabolized by liver enzymes in the liver. 40% gets excreted unchanged. You won't find any cocaine unchanged in your urine, at least not much, because it gets metabolized so quickly. But because this is metabolized slowly, 40% of it will end up going out through the urine. So there's that. In terms of distribution, both of these are going to pass the blood-brain barrier because both methamphetamine and cocaine, when they get into your bloodstream, become that freebase form because of the pH in your bloodstream. So they both cross all barriers. So this is something I put together to kind of organize this. There's similarities and differences between these drugs and between the two different forms of the drugs. So what I'm trying to say here is cocaine can be in the HCl or the freebase form. Meth can be in the HCl or freebase form. So if you look at cocaine in the HCl form, it's short acting, okay, it gets metabolized fast, and it can be snorted or injected. In the freebase form, it's still short acting, but it can be smoked. Methamphetamine is long lasting. In the HCl form, it's snorted or injected. In the freebase form, it's smoked, but it's still long lasting. So if you look in terms of freebase versus freebase, the freebases can be smoked. The HCLs are snorted or injected. If you look at it this way, cocaine is always short acting no matter which form of it you take. Methamphetamine is always long lasting no matter what form you take. Okay, so that hopefully clarifies things somewhat. Okay. Oops, we're into mechanism of action already. Okay, well, let's do this thing. Oops, what? I don't have the links here. Oh, be a son of a. Hang on one second, people. I know I can get us there. Boom, 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 boom. And as usual, if you want to dance to this music, you're welcome. Always a party going on in the mouse cage. Okay, methamphetamine. I don't think I would, no, you're the alcohol guy. Methamphetamine. I don't think I would mess with Mr. Methamphetamine. Let him dangle there for a minute. It's not a lot of fun, is it, mister? You shouldn't be doing drugs.
Dopamine transporters are responsible for removing dopamine from the synaptic cleft. Because meth mimics dopamine, it is taken into the cell by the dopamine transporters. Once inside the cell, meth enters the dopamine vesicles, forcing the dopamine molecules out. The excess dopamine in the cell causes the transporters to start working in reverse, actively pumping dopamine out of the cell and into the synapse.
Okay, so this mechanism isn't right. This, like I say, this video is probably, or animation is probably, I would say, 15 years old, and they know more about the mechanism now than they did then, so don't take that too seriously.
The excess dopamine becomes trapped in the synaptic cleft. As a result, it binds again and again to the receptors, overstimulating the cell. Meth is highly addictive because it works directly on the brain's reward pathway, making the user feel intense pleasure and exhilaration. Dopamine transporters are responsible for removing dopamine molecules from the synaptic cleft after they have done their job.
They sound just like that too.
Cocaine blocks these transporters, leaving dopamine trapped in the synaptic cleft. As a result, dopamine binds again and again to the receptors, overstimulating the cell. Like other drugs, cocaine concentrates in the reward pathway. However, it is also active in the part of the brain controlling voluntary movements. This is why cocaine abusers are fidgety and unable to be still.
That, and they're looking for more cocaine. So, the take home here is that methamphetamine causes dopamine and norepinephrine and serotonin to be dumped out of the axon bulbs. So you get a rush of all three of these chemicals. Cocaine works on the same three chemicals, except it's not causing it to dump, It's just blocking you from being taken back up. But here oh my God, it's 4 o'clock already. I promised you guys would be out of here. No, but seriously, I feel really guilty about how short these classes are, but there's really no point in doing it all at once. So let's call it a day here, and we'll go into a lot more detail of all this next time. Matthew.
Sir, are we going to be talking about caffeine too anytime soon?
No, we're not going to go over caffeine. I'm thinking about putting another chapter together with caffeine and nicotine, but I haven't done that yet. Just in general, what caffeine does is very different from cocaine. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors. So adenosine in your brain is kind of the signal to go to sleep. So the longer you're awake, the more adenosine builds up in your brain, and it activates adenosine receptors, and that helps you to fall asleep. Caffeine blocks those receptors, so it's an antagonist at those receptors, and that's what causes it to be a stimulant, wakes you up more.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, we're up to 27 people. I heard someone come in about 2 minutes ago. Boy, you're going to be disappointed. Class is over already. Okay, can I see your faces real quick? Tanner Tobias, Matthew Cole, Kaylee Quackenbush. Oh, Natasha's here. Thank you, Natasha, for coming. Stefan McCain, always count on you. He's a good man. Celine, oh Jesus, I'm so tired of you, Celine. You're in all my classes. Krista smiling, life is good. Asha Gupta. I like the name Gupta. That's a good name. Carrie Murphy, I don't like that name. Just kidding. I'm half Irish. I have to like that name. Okay, guys. I can sit here and make fun of your names all day, but I don't think that's what you came for. So I'm going to let you go. I'll see you guys again on Wednesday, right? We'll finish this chapter. And I believe we have an exam a week from Wednesday. So next Monday, we'll just do a review, I guess. Okay? Everybody happy? Any complaints? Okay. We'll see you Wednesday. Bye-bye.